Hello, hello, welcome to Revelator Alf. Crikey, what a palaver it is this evening. Everything is failing on me. It could be a very short-lived radio podcast thing, but there we go. This is dealing with technology on a daily basis. We're live here. Revelator Alf coming at ya. I'm going to be talking all things, well, any subject really, any subject you like. I've got the mission control is all ready to go, I think. I'm going to be covering a few of the news stories, a few sort of interesting little snippets, but I'm going to get onto the main subject, really. The main subject is about one percenters. Are they taking over? Are they ruining the motorcycle life, the motorcycle world? Now, let me just make one thing absolutely perfectly clear. I'm not talking about 1%er motorcycle clubs or outlaw things or anything like that. Nothing motorcycle related at all. This is all to do with the 1%, what they call the 1%ers in society, or the social 1%ers, or the financial 1%ers, okay? And essentially the ones who are earning lots and lots of money, right? And basically not like you and I for the most part, but those in society who are earning lots of money and who have increasingly so over the years have got into mainstream cars, but mainstream motorcycling as well. And the net effect of this is that it's raised prices. But listen, I'm going to be getting into this big subject later on. But, let us know your thoughts. The chat is open as well. And you can support and follow along any of the social media pages as well. And on Patreon, PayPal, for any support, you go to the website, revelatoralf.com as well. As I say, the chat is open. Let me just make sure that the chat is doing the chat thing as it should. I'm just going to do a hi there. Make sure that's all working. If I could even spell. See if that comes up. It does. There we go. I've just said hello to myself. There we go. But wherever you are in the world, let us know what you're up to, what you're doing, and there you go. But say tonight's show. There you go. There's a chat there. So tonight's show is all really about the changing elements within the motorcycle world, and this is kind of a recurring theme, I suppose, in different aspects. So, good evening, Morris. Thank you for joining as well. Let me just get this a little bit more so I can see it better as well. So, one thing tonight, before I get into this show tonight, one thing I want to let you know that what you're seeing behind me is soon going to change, and what you can't see ahead of me is soon changing. So there's going to be lots of changes going on there and there as well. So that is a bit of a task for the next few days. So I've got the next few days off. A bit of a heavy weekend coming up ahead. Actually, I've got the boxing to watch on Saturday night. Anthony Joshua fighting. I think you can watch that on DAZN online, whatever. And on Sunday afternoon, it's football. So going to be watching the football and hopefully watching my team not lose, which would always be a good thing. But anyway, so tomorrow I've got a few chores to do around the house, but also got work on the bike as well, and see if I can get that to fire up and start at least. That's my main task for tomorrow. But as I say, it really depends when all the changes that I'm expecting to arrive, either late tonight or tomorrow. I'll be working on this setup and taking a few things down and rejigging a few things. So lots of stuff will be happening behind the scenes. I think I kind of say this on a regular basis anyway. Things are happening behind the scenes. But unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depend on which way you look at these things. It's kind of happens on a regular basis. It's always evolving. The channel is always evolving. Okay, let's talk a bit about some news items, shall we? Let's get into it. Okay, so before I get into any of the news stories, again, this because there aren't any major stories. All I'm doing, I'm just picking out a few stories here that were of interest to me. But I encourage you to go and read those for yourself. I'm just highlighting where these stories are, or what kind of topical points might be relative to you. But say, I encourage you to go and read these. I always try and give a big shout out to a lot of these publications. As always, as I always say, a lot of these stories I'm also featuring on my own website, revelatorhealth.com, and especially the ones that are of real interest to me. But let us know your thoughts on any of the news topics, but also any topic you want to discuss, or any news item you want to discuss, or any question that you have as well. Just let us know in the comments in the chat. Right, let's get into this first one here. So this is from morebikes.co.uk. Just not so much the story, but it's more like a comparison, what you guys think of it as well. So here's a company called Merlin who do motorcycle apparel, motorcycle clothing. And they're basically branching out into the United States. So they've got different, it's quite nice clothing. It looks it looks like the kind of clothing that a Triumph rider would ride. If you would wear or something, or something like that. It looks really nice. In fact, it's maybe the kind of clothing that I might wear as well. Although I'm not riding a Triumph. Anyway, I digress. But there's big, quite a nice story really, or quite a nice news feature, is that they're moving out into the United States. They've taken on this guy here, Michael Tex Morby, who's got a whole history of working in motorcycle apparel companies, and they're branching out into the United States. But here's the question that I was going to ask really, is if you know of wherever you are, wherever you're listening, you've got a national brand of motorcycle clothing, or it might even just be a startup, a small company, right? And maybe this small company is they're latching onto, I don't know, some social media person, maybe a YouTuber or something. This happens on I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but it's just a good way of doing it. They find somebody who's quite popular, and they try and latch onto them and have some kind of association, right? And you can pick any YouTuber you like, or anybody on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, especially Instagram. Lots of influencers there, right? Some brand will approach them and say, do you want to promote our brand, or we give you free items, or, we'll pay you, and all that kind of stuff. So, this happens on a regular basis. But not many that I've heard that are a small label, relatively small label, from one particular country branch out into another country. They may sell in those countries in terms of overseas sales or dispatch to foreign countries, but to open up dealerships or franchises in other countries, it's a big step. So I'm just wondering how many other companies that you've heard of do this as well. I can think of numerous motorcycle clothing and apparel vendors from this country, but also from Europe, let's say, and also, other parts of the world, like Australia, any country really. And, they kind of think, well, individually, they're quite small markets. Europe as a whole is a big market. But then you think, well, actually, what determines whether a company wants to just stay in Europe, for example, or just in one country like the UK, but instead of going to Europe, they want to go to the United States? Well, possibly the United States, it might be a language issue, it might be a motorcycling preference issue, but it also might be the fact that, well, you've got about 300 million people in the United States that once you're in the United States, you can just sell within that market, and you've got less barriers to go over. Whereas, okay, I know Europe is different in the sense that it is, it's one common market. However, you've always got language barriers to get over. Whereas the United States, it's just one market, it's just one language for the most part. And, there aren't any borders to cross or anything like that. So you can move your products, all over the place. Yes, there are state laws to get over, but I'm just interested here, why the decision I suppose this is the follow-up question to this article. Why go to the United States? Why? What's so special? But this, let's have a look. Here we go. Over the last 10 years, Merlin has grown strongly based on a mission of providing the best protection in motion from our apparel lines, built through the highest progressive innovation available. I'm sure other manufacturers have the same thing. Yet ensuring that every rider receives an amazing bang for the buck. Very Americanism expression there. This position has seen Merlin generate almost 3/4 of our revenue outside of our home market in the UK. Okay, so that would kind of answer that question. If 3/4 of the revenue is outside of the UK, but Merlin has been supplying into the US since 2016 with an amazing customer response. So it was the right time, with the interruption of COVID-19 behind us, that we stepped up and formed a Merlin North American subsidiary to meet an increasing demand of our North American customers. I think it's a bold move. I would just like to see how much of that 3/4 of their revenue is actually from the United States. They obviously feel that it is a big portion here. So, hey, look, good luck to them. Good luck to them. But I'll say, for me, this just opens up more questions. So, well, actually, how many other companies are out there like that? How many of them would want to get into different markets, and how many of them are selling equipment or selling apparel they've latched onto, let's say, a YouTuber, so they've got some kind of outlook there, they've got a name out there, but actually their products are very, I'm not saying generic, that's very harsh to say, but they're very similar to what other people are saying. And I look at this line here and I say, well, actually it looks on the face of it to be stuff that you can buy anywhere, so I've always found that interesting. Okay, next story here as well. This is an interesting one from from Visor Down here. I don't know how you pronounce it. Calfan F80 electric motorcycle set for a UK launch in April, and it's if you know what the Suron motorcycles are, and the other one that I always forget begins with a T, not Triton. Basically, just almost a little bit bigger than a bicycle, really, a heavy-duty bicycle frame, but with a big battery pack in there. But they're coming in this year, 2023, April. But with this battery, a lower cost base. There's an off-road variant, there's a road variant, and the road variant's got all the lighting and everything like that. I think it's about top speed 57 miles per hour, 3.5 kilowatt hour battery. I think it is a 2-hour charging time on this. It's 8 kilowatt, 10.7 horsepower motor. 81 kilos, but the off-road variant is 5,495. The on-road variant is 5,940, but the on-road variant is off-road, just as like the off-road version, if you know what I mean, just with lighting essentially and all that sort of stuff. But the interesting thing about this is that the frame, there are no welds. There are no welds on the frame. There's no welds on the frame at all. It's a molded alloy frame, which I thought was really interesting. So, it depends where you are in the world, of course, whether this is, yes, Chinese product. But as I say, I don't have an issue with it being manufactured over there at all. It is a Chinese manufactured product, Chinese company, as I'm led to believe. But say this singular molded frame is quite interesting, and that is how they say that they've been able to reduce the weight of this product as well. Okay, next story here. This is Zero Motorcycles, American motorcycle company. They're setting up production assembly plants in the Philippines as well. This is from portan.org. Not much of a story here, only in that they're branching out, as many other companies are. Interesting, though, that Zero they are facing the problems just like every other global manufacturer, in that they have their motorcycles that are going to be too expensive for certain markets, depending on where that market is. So they have to be able to move production or add additional production to reduce unit cost of their products as well. And then those products may only be sold in certain markets to overcome some import taxes and things like that. There we go. Right, Griffin Zev, what's your point? Well, I'll get onto the point afterwards. So we're just covering the news right now. So hopefully you'll stay. And if not, well, you can watch it later on. There we go. Right, so the next story here is interesting here from Suzuki in the UK, and I think it might be all over Europe as well. You might remember a few weeks ago I talked about KTM, Husqvarna and GasGas. They've come out with this like lifetime warranty thing where I think it's up to 7 years and 100,000 miles, or could be 80,000 miles. I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's something like that. But it's tied into a service. You've got to service your motorcycle at an approved centre in order to get the stamp in the book, and then they give you this lifetime warranty. What they call the lifetime of the bike, 7 years, 60, 80,000 miles. Suzuki now have followed suit, also with cars, but also with motorcycles as well. Suzuki, as I said, over the last few months, they've been coming out with quite innovative new ways to help new riders get onto bikes, existing riders and all that sort of stuff. This is nothing new in this sense, but it's a kind of a new thing to motorcycling, and quite a few manufacturers have adopted that this year. Okay, next one here. This is featured on my website as well. This is Yamaha. Basically, they're trying to introduce or develop stability software, a stability system, especially for small motorcycles and new riders as well, and just to make motorcycling a lot more safer, especially for anybody learning as well. So it's called the AMSAS, the Advanced Motorcycle Stability Assist System as well. So that's interesting. I mean, this is lots of that sort of technology has been developed in recent years, but I say this is something they're developing as well, and they're looking to develop it even further. Good evening, Simon. Good evening, Bees the Biker. Hello. There we go. Don't be rude. Thank you, Beezer. Right, okay. Quick story here. I am kind of taking on a little bit more than I wanted to really here, but this is from the Hindustan Times, from Auto Hindustan Times from India. Essentially, Honda, they're releasing this CB350, a smaller scale, old school CB350. A lot of people, say in India, are kind of a bit wary of this bike because it's that good. Apparently it's that good, and it could really challenge a lot of the, let's say, like the Royal Enfields out there with their 350, a better all-round package per se, and it certainly looks good as well. So again, have a look at it, or go and do your own research on the CB350 from Honda, but it looks nice as well. Okay, this is another one here. If you're into motorcycle sports or World Superbikes, British Superbikes, they've got a new presenter here as well. I'm not sure what it was, the story. I'm not really interested in the presenter per se, although she's very nice and very attractive. That's got nothing to do with it. I'm more interested in that where you can watch it. And I don't know if you're aware that the like Discovery Channel, and I think it's Eurosport, and Discovery Plus, Eurosport, and a couple of other channels are all merging, BT Sport, they're all merging under one banner as well, and I think it comes under Warner Brothers type thing. Anyway, it's just something to bear in mind. If you're really into watching motorcycle sports, they may disappear from free-to-air viewing, and they may go to subscription base only. So just watch out for that. Here's another one. Again, if you saw my show a couple of days ago, I was talking about Langen, the bespoke motorcycle manufacturer. They do two-stroke bikes. It's quite expensive two-stroke bikes, really nice looking, but they also got a four-stroke. But they're also coming into electric bikes as well, trying to develop electric bikes and batteries as well, taking those back, battery packs and lightweight motors and that kind of thing. From Motorcycle News, go check it out. Okay, this one here from Auto Evolution. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but this is the Arc Vector motorcycle electric bike. It's £100,000, $111,000 motorcycle, right? I'm going to relate this story to afterwards as well, but just so you know that I'll be talking about that. Here's another one as well. We talk, they're talking about the shape-shifting electric motorcycle. This is from Ride Apart. And it's basically talking about the way the electric motorcycle market is going. It's lending itself to much more. They're breaking the mold with conventional designs, and the way the electric bikes are enable different designs to be realized and to be workable designs, if you know what I mean. So I suppose this is what I always say about the electric bikes: watch out, because it's moving so fast, and then you just don't know from one month to the next what's going to happen. I'm actually keeping an eye on these stories quite a lot, and it's just some of the projections or the design ideas that are coming through. I mean, they kind of do look very futuristic, a lot of them, but the future is now, as it were. It's happening now, and this is something that they're being quite clever with it, a lot of it. I mean, obviously they got the model there. Of course they got the model, they got the bike, and the bike looks pretty cool, I got to say, but it's but these electric bikes of the future of a certain size, they all do look quite similar, but they are similar to the Arc Vector, which I showed you before. It's that kind of, you sat on it, you just got the handlebars coming out of the tank, and it's it's interesting. But there we go. So that's that one. Here's another one here. Look, for those of you who are Harley Davidson fans as well, this is a bike from Ride Apart as well. I featured this story before, or a spin-off of this, and not on a live show, just some videos as well, but Chinese Harley Davidson clones. Here's a bike here, which again I featured before. This is the Zhang Shui XN650N. It looks exactly like an 883, Harley Davidson 883, and these are just clones, but they're just doing a follow-up story on it. But look, all you can say is that the Chinese branded bikes, they're coming out with more. A lot more of these bikes are coming out with, and they're not just doing clones or copies or very, very similar bikes to Harley Davidson's. They're actually covering a lot of other bikes as well. There we go. Here's another bike here from RTR again. Their RTR motorcycles have launched their 799E electric scrambler in December 2023. So, scramblers have become very, very popular. Urban scramblers. Well, now we got, more and more into electric scramblers as well. The electric motocross market has developed quite a lot, and now they're obviously moving into the road-based bikes with off-road capability as well. So, watch out for this RTR bike. But, interesting there. This is from Ride Apart as well. Here, again, if you're into motorcycle sports, which I am as well, MotoGP, Brembo having a closer association with MotoGP for the forthcoming season. Essentially, it's quite an in-depth story. This comes from MotoGP.com, but essentially Brembo not only supply braking, but they're also going to be supplying telemetry data live on the TV pictures that you'll see, and it's all going to be sponsored, supplied by Brembo, it will say. So, watch out for that as well. But they're saying that the data and the graphics is going to be like you've never seen it before, essentially. So go check that out there. Okay, here's another one from, this is from Top Speed. If you like your Yamahas, XSR 900s, which I've always saw, when I first saw them about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I don't know, no, maybe not that long, maybe when they first came out, I thought, yeah, these are cool, and then they had a whole series of Yamaha, for the first 2 or 3 years, they had a whole series of custom bike builders from around the world building XSR 900s. or other versions of that bike, the 900. And I think there was there a 750 as well? I think so. Anyway, great looking bikes and great custom bikes. But here you can get this really cool cafe 1970s cafe racer kit. Basically just a bolt-on type thing. And I've got to say, that looks pretty good. You can't see the whole front there, but it's kind of got an old style nacelle fairing on it as well. So that's quite nice. So that's all from topspeed.com. Go check them out. And here, probably not much of a picture you can see. Basically, again, Royal Enfield, as I said, they've got lots of more bikes coming out. This is spy pictures coming out of the Scrambler, Royal Enfield Scrambler 650. And it's basically the Interceptor. The Interceptor engine, but they're basically, they've got more bikes, and here it is. Basically, this is Scrambler seat that you can see, and all this kind of stuff. So it looks all right. It's hard to tell with these spy photos because they don't make the bikes look really nice, because they just look usually matte black and just dirty, horrible things, if you know what I mean. But there we go. This is just the story that you see somebody riding it. It looks all right. I've got to say, for a so-called Royal Enfield Scrambler, it kind of looks a little bit generic to me. But as I say, I want to reserve judgment before I get to it. This is it again. This is a lot of stuff coming out from India right now. The Bajaj Triumph hookup for their bike. They're basically confirming that there's more spy photos come out. And this one looks actually quite nice. This actually seems to have a better presence on the road, better stance. But they're saying that's definitely coming out later on in the year. Right. So that's it. Basically, that's all the news from. From today. Crikey, what? Whew, I got through that really quickly, didn't I? Okay, right. Let's get into some of the comments. Address those because I've got one eye on the comments and one here. I know a couple have come in, so let me just say that. So Beezer the biker, good afternoon. Morris, hello. Thank you for joining. Sorry, I'm a little bit late in catching all these up. Griffin Zev, what's your point? If you can afford a Harley or a BMW, buy it. Motorcycling has got nothing to do with social status. Let's not make it that. Well, okay, let's have a discussion, shall we? Let's have a discussion on that. If what you're talking about is happening in Britain, keep it there and out of the US. I assume that's what you mean. Well, Griffin, Zev, maybe it's already over your way. Maybe it's already happened. Bees the biker, don't be rude. Good evening. Just watching. We'll catch up later. Well, thank you, and hope you enjoy it. Bees the bike. Love MotoGP. Bum Rossi retired. Me too. You can. I don't know. Maybe you can see Rossi. There we go. Vinales, yeah, great rider. I mean, the season starts soon, isn't it? Next couple of weeks and stuff. I think. Is it next couple of weeks they're starting? But anyway, okay. Should we get onto the main story? Let's do that. Okay. Oh dear. So are 1%ers taking over the motorcycle world, the motorcycle community, the bike in life? Now, again, I just want to reiterate there for those of you just joining now or didn't hear me correctly before. I'm not talking about 1% motorcycle clubs or anything to do with motorcycle clubs at all. First race was last Sunday. Sorry, yeah, I'm way behind the curve here. Sorry. Thanks, Abiza, for pointing that out. But I'm not talking about motorcycle clubs here at all. What I'm talking about is a social standard here. A standard that's crept into motorcycling that possibly was never there before, certainly 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And we know that motorcycling has become more expensive. Some would argue that actually, no, in relative terms, it's around about the same. But let's face it, in modern day standards, buying a brand new bigger motorcycle, for sure, is really expensive. It's an expensive proposition. And also buying all the equipment if you want to do that, and then if you want to start trying to work on these things by yourself, and the consumables as well, in terms of servicing, in terms of tires, so on and so forth. Hey, it's an expensive proposition, we know that. Conversely, there are also lots of cheaper motorcycles out there. From many of the larger manufacturers. They sell expensive motorcycles, of course, but they also sell much cheaper motorcycles. We've got the emergence of many more exports from the Indian motorcycle market, the likes of Royal Enfield, to name but one. The exports from the Chinese motorcycle manufacturers over many years, certainly into Europe, but over other parts of the world as well, that are offering much cheaper forms of motorcycling. Granted, most of these have been small cc motorcycles, right? But now they're starting to get bigger motorcycle cc's, 650s, 700s, 800s, even 1000 cc's. But those are still coming in at much cheaper for now than the more expensive brands. So I want to just highlight something to you. And you can probably guess where this is going. Okay, so let me just give this up. The Arc Vector, which is electric motorcycle, British design. Basically, I sat on one of these a few years ago, and they put a head-up display helmet with it, and it's all really cool in the way it was going to be designed. And they were trying to launch it at the time, and it never seemed to get much further than that. But at the time it was a £90,000 motorcycle. I think now it's over £100,000. It's it's a very interesting story about the Arc Vector. But you sometimes think, are they ever really going to sell any of these, and who's going to buy them? So that's the question: who's going to buy them, right? If we look at this, let me just see if I can get rid of myself here a bit. Hold on one second. Because there we go. Let me just go and pull. No, there we go. I'm going to pull myself over here so you can see me a little bit better, right? Or see the web page a little bit better. The 1%er. What is the 1%er? Well, basically, I've been trawling through some definitions as well, and it depends on which country you're talking about. But they're saying that essentially a 1%er, in terms of financial sense, in the social sense, because they're kind of linked as well, is that, it can be anywhere from 450, 500,000 US dollars and above. It's got to be above that, right? 600,000 US dollars and above. And it gives you, so that's basically a household income of $515,000 a year. So you've got to have that in order to be classed as a 1%er. There's other ones here as well, where it's basically saying what is the average net worth of the top 1%, and we're talking billionaires, right, multi-billionaires, and everything like that. And basically say, as of 2019, the top 1% of household net worth in the US starts at $11 million US dollars. An individual would need to earn an average of $401,622 US dollars in order to join the top 1%. In a household, so that's an individual, but the income would have to be over, the household income would have to be over 570, and it goes on different breaks. And we can talk about different countries. So you get the picture, you get the idea, right? Let me just bring myself back into the fold here, shall we? Hold on. Right, get rid of that. There we go. I'm back in. I'm back. Right, so essentially, what we're talking about here is that there are more and more 1%ers in society. We know that. growth as the divide between the rich and the poor has got wider and wider. But at a global scale, there are more and more people who are above this 1%, really high earners. At the same time, we've also had an increase in people who are below the 1%, but are way above the poverty line in terms of middle earners, right? And they're almost up to 1%, but they're not quite there. Then you got another band, let's say, that are kind of the normal middle classes, and then you got people who are just whatever. So here's the interesting thing. You might have seen my live show a couple of weeks ago when I talked about Harley, or maybe not even a couple of weeks ago, when I talked about what investors, how they perceive clients from Harley Davidson and companies like Harley Davidson in terms of who's going to be buying their bikes. And what they want is those high value customers, those or higher class customers, higher value customers. And this is the kind of people they're talking about. They're talking about they don't want, average Joes, average people on, normal salaries anymore. They'll take your money. Of course they will. Of course they're not going to say no. They're going to take your money just like anybody else, right? But for a brand new motorcycle, they're actually really aiming higher. And it's aiming higher at people who just have more money. Now, what would happen before is that people with greater incomes would not necessarily, I'm talking historically here, I'm talking, 100 years or so plus, people with lots and lots of money would not go into motorcycling. It would not, yes, there was always the odd person here and there, but for the most part, and it stayed that way, they would also go into big ticket purchases like houses, mansions, land, big expensive cars, that kind of thing. But motorcycling has been kind of kept at bay. Whereas now you've got more and more people getting into motorcycling and more, let's say, rich people buying toys, right? Now, what kind of happened was this, that people may have a real interest in motorcycling, but they tended to buy, I'm talking about these 1%ers, we're talking about really expensive or high-end people. They would tend to buy either bespoke, handcrafted motorcycles, let's say like a Confederate, or what is a Curtis now, a Virus. They would talk about, they would buy a handcrafted MV Agusta, or a bespoke custom bike, or whatever it is, that's what they want. Or they would go to auctions and they would say, I'm going to buy this £500,000 Brough Superior, and it's just going to be in my office, so when my clients come I can say, hey, look at that bike, isn't that amazing, look at the so on and so forth. So it's not really a riding machine, it's more like a status symbol. Now, if you think this is happening, who was it who said this before? I can't remember. Griffin's there. If you think this is a UK thing, you think this is a Europe thing, think again. Because actually this has been happening in the US for quite a while. That more and more people from that earning greater and greater salaries, have started to enjoy motorcycling a lot more. It moved away from the rich, the ultra rich, just buying really expensive items because they could, and buying very expensive motorcycles or handcrafted motorcycles or auction, very rare motorcycling. And what they're doing is that they're coming into mainstream motorcycling as well. The manufacturers, for their part, they are raising their prices. And yes, in technologies increase as well, but they're raising their prices to not only offer mass-produced motorcycles, let's say in the case of something like Honda or something like that, but they're also producing the kind of bespoke lines, the highly selective line, the signature lines, signature motorcycles that were going to attract the bigger brands or the high earners. So it's an interesting dynamic that the stock market and investors and companies they're actively trying. This is not just a Harley Davidson thing, which I talked about in previous show. It's actually quite a few of the manufacturers are doing it. The big manufacturers, or the ones that are traditionally just sold expensive motorcycles for a very small customer base. Let's take the likes of Ducati. Ducati, last year, 2022, had their best ever sales year. And I think they sold $1 billion worth of product, and I think they sold over 60,000 motorcycles. Still not grand in the grand scheme of things, but what it shows is that in recent years they've just been selling more and more and more, and they're not cheap motorcycles. Certainly the most expensive ones, right? But they're good motorcycles, they're great motorcycles, but they're more and more. You got the likes of Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson actually have been selling less motorcycles over a prolonged period over the last 10 years, but their profits are going up and up and up. Well, why is that? Well, they're selling more diverse products, but essentially their unit price has gone up, and for many markets around the world, their cost price has gone down because they've established manufacturing assembly plants in other countries, and those countries are still able to sell at higher rates, but they're producing bikes at a lower cost unit cost. Therefore, the profit margin is higher. So you've got manufacturers of smaller brands selling more expensive motorcycles. You've got larger brands just increasing their prices. And you've also got the big brands, let's say the likes of Honda or something like that. They are offering cheap options, but they're also offering the really expensive motorcycles as well. Now, those expensive motorcycles were always there, but now they're topping 30, almost £40,000. If you're talking about Harley Davidson, yes, whilst it's a signature bike, it's an anniversary bike, we're talking about a £50,000 motorcycle. Now, here's the thing. We're not talking about, for the most part, let's exclude the CVO from Harley Davidson, we're not talking about one-off motorcycles. Yes, they may be limited runs. There might be 1,000, a couple of thousand motorcycles here and there, but they're still mass-produced motorcycles. Now, you could argue this. If a design house or a motorcycle manufacturer is only going to produce one motorcycle or two, or a limited run of 5 or 10, that would demand and attract a much higher price, and it would attract these so-called 1%ers, the social 1%. This is not my term, by the way. The 1%er. This is something that I came across a year or two ago when I was looking at financial records. I just came across this term. People talking about being a 1%er, and I was saying, well, what's that got to do with the price of cheese? And then I started investigating a little bit more. So what's happened? There's been an attraction, a trickle down effect, where high earners are buying not only expensive bespoke motorcycles, but now they're buying motorcycles that actually are, for want of a better word, they're mass produced as well. Now, the whole point of mass producing anything is that you have a much smaller economies of scale. That your unit price, your cost price comes down, therefore your sales price can be lower to attract more potential customers. Therefore, you're going to have a much higher turnover of product, much more output of products, to say, demand. You create a demand, the supply matches that demand, and you're riding a wave, right? And that's essentially what happens with smaller motorcycles, cheaper motorcycles. You attract somebody who hasn't got a lot of money, who just wants a cheap form of transport. They're just learning, let's say, and you supply a vehicle that they're going to want to buy. So you've created a demand by offering something that's going to fulfill their needs, and they want you to produce it, so you supply it, and then they keep on wanting it. More and more people want it, so you keep on supplying more. The thing is now with the big bikes is that or the more expensive bikes now, is that it's attracting a higher value customer, as they like to say. And all that means is that somebody who's just got a lot more money. So the question is this: are the 1%ers and those who are just operating below that 1% threshold, and they're slowly moving into the mass motorcycle market. I'm not talking about bespoke markets here. I'm not talking about one-off bikes or custom bikes or anything like that. You know, I'm talking about the mass motorcycle market of higher end motorcycles, right? Are they driving up the price, or the only way to attract them is to offer an expensive product? An expensive product that doesn't warrant being an expensive product. It's an interesting thought process. It's an interesting thing to consider. Who's at fault here? Is it those with more money who want something like a motorcycle? Well, no, of course not, because everybody can buy whatever they want. But because they've got more money, there is less value associated with that money. Just stands to reason. If you're earning a million pounds a year, you're going to value 30,000, 40, 50,000 pounds a lot less than somebody who only earns 20,000 pounds a year. You know, even if you earn 50, even if you earn 100,000 pounds a year, 50,000 pounds for a motorcycle is still a hell of a lot of money. 100,000 pounds a year is a huge salary. That's a big salary. But even those on 100,000 will kind of go, 50,000 for a motorcycle. Are you sure? So now you're talking, well, at what point does a 50,000 pound motorcycle not become painful to the ears? Does it not become? Well, you've got to keep on attracting the 1%ers. You've got to keep on striving for it. And we've heard about this. We've been hearing about this for quite a few years now. Quite a few years. The likes of Harley Davidson, Ducati, even the likes of BMW, even the likes of Triumph, you know. They use these kinds of words in their marketing spiel: higher level, advanced technology, bespoke engineering, bespoke stitching on the seat, whatever. They talk about design, high level design. They ally themselves to some well-known fashion designer who's going to design some of their motorcycle apparel. You know, they talk about premium product for a premium brand, for a premium customer. Do you know what I mean? So the wording has been there, and it's been subliminal. It's been there for a while. And yes, many of us have kind of seen this coming, and many of us have been rolling our eyes for a long, long time. But when you're matching, when the prices have just gone up, and I do have to say this and spell this out, I suppose, that not all motorcycles are expensive, right? And if you do want to buy an expensive motorcycle, there's nothing problem. There's nothing problem. There's no problem with that. But when you're trying to aspire to buy a great motorcycle or something that you want, you can't even aspire to it now. For the most people, they can't even aspire to it. Now, most people could never aspire to a one-off bespoke motorcycle or a custom bike motorcycle, or, something that's, 100,000, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 pounds, dollars, shekels. but it's not something they could even aspire to, because it's just that way. I'm never going to be able to, buy that. You could look at it and go, wow, that's amazing engineering, it looks great and everything, but it's just not for me. I can't afford it, right? I'll just go and buy ride my 250cc, 350cc, or my old junker of a bike, and and away I go. I'll be happy with that. But you can appreciate something, right? But when you're talking about bikes that are produced in numbers, and not necessarily overly mass-produced motorcycles, but produced in numbers, then all of a sudden, these are bikes that you should be able to aspire to. These are the bikes that you should be seeing. And so all of a sudden, you've got to say, well, I can't even aspire to those. How many times have I heard from people in comments, in the videos, whatever, where people are saying, hey, I just can't afford this anymore. I'm being priced out of it. I'm just going to stick with what I've got, or I'm going to buy a lot cheaper so an alternative. How many times? You've probably heard this before. You've probably felt this yourself before. This is not a criticism per se, just in case you think I'm bashing here anybody with more money. Absolutely not. I'm not bashing at all. I'm just identifying an observation here, where the trend has changed, where more and more people have got into motorcycling that traditionally, historically, would never have even dreamt of getting into motorcycling. Yeah. And I've always said that motorcycling is just two rungs up from walking as mobility. You got walking or running, foot power. Then you've got pedal power on a bicycle. Then you've got motorcycling. Then you get into cars and trucks and lorries and so on and so forth. But we kind of sit in the middle ground. And of the lowest point, you're literally just you are the first motorized form of transport that somebody will get. And that first effort is still there to be inexpensive. But if you want to step up from that, it's a really expensive. Piketea, hello from Norway. Hello. In Norway, the 2023 HE Sport Glide costs £27,500. Pounds. Is that Norwegian? So what's your? You're not euro, are they? Are you? They're punds, are you? No, you're not. What are you? What's your krona? Isn't it Norwegian krona? You are still krona, right? Yeah. 20. Okay, so you're converting it to UK pounds. Yeah, well, you've got an expensive society there as well. But that's just crazy. That is about what? That is £8,000 more than it is over here. Wow. The Softair Heritage 34,100, and the Road Glide Special 39,600. The utter madness, if you ask me. Absolutely right. It is utter madness. For mass-produced motorcycles here, we're not talking bespoke motorcycles, and you're absolutely right. 2 years ago, I paid $23,300 for a 2-year-old Road King with 5,000 miles on the clock, and that was a bargain here in Norway. Yeah, you have a very expensive society anyway. Well, just to complete the story, the CVO Road Glide Limited cost £63,240, and they think I'm mad. Word salad, Boris. Word salad. Yeah, well, I possibly, yes. Mark Shearer. Now have the last Harley I'll ever buy. Now priced out the market for the future. Well, I think you are just as much. You are not alone. Many other people would feel the same. I'm sure they do. A good example is the Lowrider ST and the ST Diablo. Same exact bike, but $8,000 more for the Diablo. Paint job, yeah. I mean, yeah. Have they got anything else? It's got the radio, has it? The Diablo, I can't remember. Lowrider ST, I can't remember. What else is there different? Is it just the paint? Apart from that, is there anything else? I can't remember. Yeah. Sorry, if it's Piketea. It's converted from Norwegian krona to pounds. Yes. I figured as much. Absolutely. It's just not. It's just nuts. Now, do I think that the likes of BMW, of Triumph, Ducati, or whatever, do I think them selling their bikes at higher prices are some way ruining motorcycling? Not so much. Not so much. Because strangely enough, in most brands, even selling expensive motorcycles, there is, I do see the value in a lot of them. I still see the value of them. What they may be out of my price range, but I can still see, okay, it's an aspirational product. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example here. If I can find my bit thing here. Here we go. Right. Let me just bring the websites up again, and I'll show you what I mean. Right. So here we go. BMW. Now I went through some of the manufacturers this afternoon, and I wanted to see, okay, what was their most expensive motorcycle. So let me just bring this up here. 1 second. I'm just going to take this off a minute so I can remove myself from the picture. There we go. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bring myself right in the bottom here, actually, like that. You're just going to see my shiny head. Okay, there we go. Look, I'm just at the bottom here. Hello. Just so you can see the prices. Okay, right. So the most expensive BMW that they've got is the M1000RR. I believe this is right, okay? 30,940. But we are talking their highest bike. If I just show you some of the other bikes that they've got here, let's just look at the let's have a look at the tour bikes, right? The K1600 the Grand America is 24,630. Actually, there's value there. I can see that. Okay, still expensive bike. Don't get me wrong, but it's decent bikes. The where are we? Roadster Heritage, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. So you got the R19B, and you've got, oops, didn't want that. Apologies. It's always the way when you're trying to. Here we go. Right. The R18 Transcontinental comes in at 25,000. So for a mid-20s motorcycle, you can get a hell of a lot of motorcycle from the likes of BMW. Yes, they do a 30,000, but they also sell a lot of motorcycles around the 15,000 pound motorcycle range, and some obviously some a little bit lower. So they've got a nice mix of prices, and they've got certainly a nice mix of bikes, and they've got aspirational bikes. Let me just get rid of my nodding head there. They've got aspirational bikes at a price that you can think you could stretch to that, or you might be able to get finance for that, right? Their prices now are what the likes of Indian and Harley Davidson were a few years ago, okay? But you've got technology that's a lot better. Okay, let me just show you Honda. Okay, so Honda, for example, for their Goldwing, you can't really see it. Let me just see if I can scroll up here so you can see. Their Goldwing, okay, 25,000. This is their top of the range. Their top, I think, is their most expensive bike. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think it is. I think their most expensive motorcycle is 25,000. That's the most expensive. So if you consider this bike to Harley Davidson most expensive, which is at 50,000, okay. Indian motorcycle here. Where is it? The Indian motorcycle, and this is the most expensive one that I could find from them. Indian Pursuit Dark Horse, which we know is a really good package, right? With a premium package, so it is their top of the range, I believe. Okay, just shy of 30,000, so £29,495. If we look at Harley Davidson, yes, I've picked on Harley Davidson, the CVO Road Glide, right? That's at 50,000 here, £50,395. I mean, it's, and Ducati is the other one. Ducati was, I've lost it. You bugger. Now, if we look at the Panigale, which we know is an expensive bike, but the tech on it is just insane. Okay, £38,995. I mean, that's basically, what we're talking about here. Let me just get that right. Let's put that back. 38,000, we're talking just shy of £40,000. So none of these motorcycles are cheap, but there are a few brands here and there that are really starting to push the envelope, and they are drawing down. They're drawing down from these much, much higher earners, and earners of that are drawing down. They're attracting the 1%ers, to come down. William Casperson, hello. Yeah, Patreon. Thank you for your Patreon as well. I wonder if HD has come to grips that going after the high end of the market results in less market share. With cars compare BMW to Toyota, exactly right, and that's the thing. I've kind of said this before. The likes of Indian, but certainly the likes of Harley Davidson. If you're raising your prices, ultimately you're going to reduce your market share. But it shouldn't matter as long as people are buying those bikes, and their financial accounts at the end of the year show, hey, guess what? We're earning 5 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion. It doesn't make any difference, right? But they're going to sell less motorcycles. My question has always been of any company like Harley Davidson, like Ducati, BMW, who've had really good years the last couple of years in terms of financial years, right? Not necessarily bike sales, but BMW and Ducati definitely have had great years. Okay. How long can they keep this up? How long can it keep it up? Well, no, we're already seeing it. I don't want to be the doom merchant here, the merchant of doom and gloom, but we're already seeing it, guys. We're already seeing it where people are not spending as much. Certain markets have shown 7, 10, 15% drop in higher end or higher priced products. 20, 25% in certain products. People are wondering, well, the prices are just going up and up and up. We know they are. But they continue to sell, and I've said this about Harley Davidson in particular, but they continue to only sell expensive motorcycles. Whereas most of the other brands, there are a couple that are similar to Harley Davidson, granted, but most of the other brands offer cheaper alternatives. Beezer, I paid more for my Sport Glide than my used GL 800 new. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Many people are going to say, look, if you're priced out of the market, let's say, or you think, I'm not. It's not that I don't think I've got the money, or I don't think that I can afford it, or I don't think I can stretch for the finance or anything. It's not that. What I'm hearing more and more, and what I've said more and more as well, it's where do you see the value? Where do you see the value in any of these expensive products? And yes, people will say, oh, prices all over the world have gone up, and inflation and supply chain crisis and energy crisis, this is what's causing these prices to go up and up. Yes, there is no doubt. But that doesn't mean that people are going to keep on buying it. Yeah. It is a dollars and cents. It is supply and demand. It is, how deep your pockets and how much are you willing to spend on a particular product as opposed to another product. In other words, you're placing value, gratification, a use, the value, however you determine that, whatever level that you determine it at. Can you get better value from something else? And you've got to ask yourself, well, many I suppose many people will. William, my local dealer in Seattle caters to the MSFT, Amazon Google Tech crowd. Oh, okay. Changes recently show they are going after the well-funded crowd, even the service department. Yeah. Is seeing experienced techs leave. Okay, it seems obvious they want to sell expensive new bikes and only service expensive new bikes. Yeah, I think this has been a gradual thing. It's been creeping up and up and up and up. It's almost like in some quarters, and I'm not going to say a particular brand, okay, this reminds me of, it's got to be over 20 years ago now. I moved to this area where this is before I met my partner, and I was looking for a flat or apartment or even a house, just a small house, but to move into and to buy. I just recently, in the last sort of couple of years, I'd returned to the country. So I'd returned from being abroad. So it was a case of, I wanted to try and get something of my own. And I was looking at property prices and I thought, wow, these are crazy property prices. I knew I'd moved into an expensive area of the country, but I thought, wow, this is not how it used to be when I sold up and I moved abroad, right? And I'll never forget, I went to, there was like an open day they were selling apartments, flats in a very small block of flats, but right in the centre of town. And there's two places I went to. And the first one was that they were trying to sell these apartments, flats, for I think it was like £200,000-400,000 as it was. And the first one was very interesting. I said, so where's the parking for the flats? And they said, oh, well, there's no parking. I said, but you've got underground parking in the flats. I could see it as I walked in. I said, yeah, no. You said that you have to pay extra for the parking. I said, why would you pay extra for the parking? Why isn't there parking afforded to the flats? They said, well, most people who live here will live here. He said, will live here. Want to pay for here, but they want to be able to just go onto a train. They never own a car, and if they did, they're just going to rent one. They don't care about a parking space. I said, well, that's just ridiculous. I said, we don't live in that world. I said, some people will, but many people won't. I said, so you're just hiking the price up just for the privilege, So anyway, so it's ridiculous, overpriced nonsense, right? The second set of flats I went to, I walked in, I said, and there was this lady, very mature lady, very well dressed, but you could tell she was looking down at me straight away as soon as I walked in. But she said, I said, yes, could I just show me the apartments that you have for sale? And she goes, well, these are £300,000 or 250. I can't remember how much it was. I said, oh, okay. Just trying to play it cool as if I, try not to gulp. She goes, these are going to be way too expensive for you. I had that pretty woman moment of going into the shop and people just looking down at you, for that, just by the way you looked and everything. Okay, I'm not a pretty woman, but you get my point. And it's this overinflation of a product, this value product. I thought, well, they're nice flats, but they're not worth 300,000, 400,000, 200,000, 300,000 pounds at the time, and especially very inconvenient. I thought, what the hell is going on? But you could say the same about all house prices, right? And wherever you are, some places are a lot cheaper. So you buy places to live out of necessity sometimes because that's where your work is. You buy motorcycles and things like that, possibly for need of cheaper travel. So if you're going to do that, you're going to tend to buy a cheaper motorcycle or cheaper form of transport as a quick runaround. But if you're going to buy an expensive motorcycle, most people, these will not be daily riding bikes. They will not be all year round riding bikes. They will tend to be something that you cherish. And as a friend of mine once said, spending 10, 15, 20,000 pounds on a bike that, is going to be kept in the garage for the most of the time, you just can't justify that. And for the most people, that's still the case. But we're attracting a new crowd now. the new crowd is getting into the motorcycle market. There we go. William Casper, even the hog chapter is geared to older tech bro crowd. Well, yeah, what with the accountants and the lawyers and the dentists. so the funny saying goes. I mean, who knows? I mean, but you're absolutely right. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people, you know, who have got white collar jobs riding motorcycles. I've never bought into the idea that motorcycling is only for, you know, people with dirty fingernails and, you know, the blue collar crowd. Never bought into that. But now the prices are just pushing up, you know, way beyond even white collar salaries. So, Bilko 1010, Bilko 1010. Hello. I want a nice cheap Honda CT125, but I cannot get one in Europe. I love those bikes. I made a video a long time ago about why aren't they coming over. Pixie, I had an interesting conversation with a guy in the parking garage today. When he heard I paid £23,000 for my bike, he was horrified. Yeah. Then when I asked what he paid for his boat, he said £65,000. He used his boat 25 hours last year, and I rode my bike 14,000 kilometers. Yeah, everything is relative. Absolutely, it is. Yeah, the same local dealer, William, is now offering 0.1% financing up to 60 months on a motorcycle purchase. What interest? Okay, 0.1 financing. Well, okay, so you have much different finance rates. The thing is, I suppose I've got to catch myself time and time again here, because I do forget. It's not that I do forget. I talk, and when I talk about it, primarily in my mind, I'm talking about the European market. But I'm kind of also looking at this at a global level. But I do appreciate that in many other countries, there's a much different financial situation and a much different way of borrowing money. So if borrowing money is really cheap in a particular country, for most people, they're not really going to care so much. It's only when the cost of borrowing, the cost of financing becomes even more, that's the problem. Yeah, so motorcycles purchased by the 31st of this month, so tomorrow. Inventory has been piling up. I wonder if HG is having issues with sales this quarter. Well, again, this is what my point. My point has always been, it's all well and good saying how well the company's been doing, but we're not even into the first quarter or the end of the first quarter yet. Let's see what the end of the first quarter results are. Let's see, which we expect to be low anyway, but you've got to see right at the end of the year how anybody's done. Sportster Sicko, like that. Great name. I bought my Sportster Iron 1200 new in 2018. My dream bike for 9,500 plus 1,500 on a stage one. Look at the price of the entry-level bikes now. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely right. And that's the problem. Many people have a problem with getting rid of the Sportsters. And I agree. I just don't think you should have got rid of the Sportsters. Or you should have introduced something that was of a similar kind of price. At the very least, you know, a sub £10,000 motorcycle, preferably a sub £7,500. People say, oh, that's impossible. It's impossible. No, nothing's impossible if you want to put your mind to it. And if it was impossible, other manufacturers would not be doing it, would they? It's just they don't want it. They don't regard you, who've just bought a Sportster at 9,500, you know, or spent another 1,500, so your £11,000 investment. They don't think you're a high value customer. You are not the 1%er. You are not the band below the 1%ers. They don't value you as a customer. This is all you can imagine. All you can imagine, if the prices are going up and up and up and up, they must know the bean counters within companies like Harley Davidson, Indian, Ducati, whatever. They must know, if we keep on putting our pricing up and up, we're going to outprice a big majority or a big portion, let's say, of our customer base. In fact, we already know that a lot of our customer base have been dropping off anyway. But we're going to put that down to age. We're going to say age, you know. People are getting older. They don't want to buy their motorcycles anymore. But what it is, it's probably it's a combination of age, but it's also a combination of prices as well.
Sports and Sicko, I've gone the other way now. I'm looking at smaller bikes like the Honda NC750. It's the new CL500. Yeah. I personally, that's exactly. I mean, I've always liked small bikes anyway. I've always liked older bikes and everything. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I like new motorcycles. Don't get me wrong. I do. You know, if somebody were to give me a brand new Indian, brand new Harley Davidson, brand new Ducati, brand new, I'll be like, yes, thank you very much indeed. But that's not reality. That's not the reality I'm living in to buy a motorcycle. You know, so yeah, I love working on bikes if I can ever get them to work, and if I can ever get around to actually doing any work on them. So buying a bike and doing it up and fixing it up, or buying an old bike, and as long as it's a runner, hey, and as long as it looks good, I like it. Yeah, you know, most things can be rectified with a new paint job, with a bit of mechanics and everything, and away you go. So the question is, are you more inclined now to go after a new bike or just a really good second-hand one that's about 5 or 6 years old? You may be paying more than they used to be, but it's considerably less than a brand new bike. William, standard rates are about 6.5 thousand. Sorry, I can't even speak today. Standard rates are around 6.5% in the US. So HD, or the dealer, is heavily incentivizing getting sales down by the end of the quarter, next 2 days. I would imagine so. If they're offering a 0.1 finance deal, wow. PKT, I totally agree with you. The Sportster crowd are B customers. The white collar guys at the dealership frown at them. Yeah, it's you know, I would look, if you're really into your bikes, and I this is always been my argument against. When I bought my Harley Davidson, it was never about joining a crowd. It was never about being accepted into a family or a hog or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it was just never about that for me. So that's why I didn't latch onto it, because I'm just a fan of motorcycling. So I'm as happy as you can be, just riding with or riding on or associating with somebody who rides a Suzuki, a Kawasaki, a Triumph, or whatever, KTM, on-road, off-road, 50cc, 250cc, 1000cc sports bike. It doesn't matter. I just love bikes. I have my riding preferences now and stuff like that, but no, just bikes are bikes. But there is there are, I should get my English right, there are types of people that are joining a group, buying a product to be kind of associated with a group. And if you're not in that group, or if you're not even with the latest technology in that group, then somehow you're not quite worthy enough. I'm not just talking about motorcycling here. You could put yourself in any group, a tech group, if you're an iPhone, if you're into Apple products or stuff like that. Oh yeah, you haven't got the latest, oh God, or you haven't got the latest MacBook, or if you haven't got the latest camera, or you haven't got the latest car, the latest house, the latest jacket, the latest whatever it is, the latest whatever it is, if you're not keeping up with the Joneses, as I say, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you if you're not keeping up with the people who are looking at growth. Companies just want growth all the time. Doesn't matter if they're earning billions and billions, they want growth. People within that growth, that within that company, that empire, they've all got small little turf areas, they've all got small little empires, and they've got to prove to themselves and to their peers and to their management and their supervisors that they're doing better. So everybody's striving constantly to do better. Reduce costs, increase profits, increase sales, increase, prices, break profit margins. Very few are thinking about the customer, the value to the customer. All they're thinking about is sales, profits, efficiency, reduce costs, all this kind of stuff, you know. And they just do it. Whatever company it is, all they're thinking about is this business model must get better. Nobody's saying to you and I, as a company, let's say 2 years ago, we did 20%. And you know what? We've kind of stayed at 15, 20%, and we're happy with that. In fact, we peaked at about 20% 3 or 4 years ago, but now we're about 10%. You know, we're still doing really well, but we're still not, you know, and we think we're about 12% now growth, or profits, I should say. You know, we're doing okay. Yeah, we're happy with that. No. For them, that's not good enough. And why is it not good enough? Because there's people on the outside, investors, stock market, especially if it's a publicly owned company or a floated company on the stock market, they want more, they want bigger money, they want bigger numbers. And the only way to attract bigger numbers is to keep on striving to attract different types of customers, higher value customers, as they like to say for Harley Davidson. And if you're not in that mold, if you're an old crusty like me, or maybe you guys are the same, maybe you're old crusties as well. But buying a brand new motorcycle is, maybe you do it, maybe you don't. But you're more than happy just to buy an old bike. Buy an old bike and just keep it there. So if you pole up, if you ride up to a Harley Davidson dealership on a hog night, or not hog night, one of their nights or the weekend, and you roll up on a bike, and I've had people look at me before as well. Your bike is dirty. It's not cleaned. It's it's maybe it's got a few scratches on it here and there, whatever. It looks a bit ragged around the edges. And you pile up and you park your bike right next to a whole line of Street Glide Special, Road Glide Specials, and that kind of thing. And everything's got their new bikes on display. And you roll up on it. No, I'm not saying this happens. But you kind of think, my bike's only 3 or 4 years old, and it's already looking really old compared to yours. It looks old. And people look at it, you go, yeah, here he is. Here he is, the runt of the litter. He's come to town. Well, what about if you're on a 12-year-old bike? What about if you're on a Harley Davidson, let's say, or BMW, whatever, that's a few years old, and it was never that special in the first place. I'm not talking about an old bike that is, a really well sought after bike that's been well maintained, or a custom bike, or a hardtail chopper, or a bobber, or anything like that. I'm just talking about just an old, tired looking Harley Davidson. You're riding in, and people are looking at, what's that POS that you're riding? What's that POS? Now, most people, I dare say, would not be like this. But there's always going to be some people who are. That's the thing. The question is how many more of these people are like that? And it's not necessarily the personality type. It's just that they're used to new things, buying new things all the time. Interesting topic. Interesting to see how the CEO from Puma is guiding HD, putting in HD fashion store in New York City. Crikey. On the other hand, I think this is misguided, knowing a lot of 1%ers. Well, they've been okay. I suppose now we can talk about 1%ers and motorcycle club life and in that regard. Because for years and years and years, and I've made videos about this and mocking Harley Davidson as well, but I don't want to bring up old ground. But essentially, they were feeding off that image for years and years and years. Then all of a sudden, that image isn't good enough anymore. I'll say, hold on a minute, you've been feeding off that. The whole motorcycle club world, certainly in the United States, have kind of latched on to that. Many of those motorcycle clubs over there, it's Harley Davidson or nothing, or it's American motorcycle or nothing, or it's got to be a Harley, really. So you've fed on that. They've kept you irrelevant. They've kept your company relevant when you're on your knees. When you've got loyal fan base, you've got loyal customers who always want Harley Davidson, always, they'll fly the Harley flag, they'll wear the colours, they'll wear the badges, they'll wear the t-shirts, so, whatever, go on, be hog for life and all this sort of stuff, right? But at some point, those people are going, you know what, you've left us behind. You don't care about us anymore. And yeah, I'm sure when they start talking about different sorts of motorcycles, they bring out the M8s, they start raising the prices. Yeah, that's it. William, most of them don't ride motorcycles. The ones that do have a bunch of them, they have a few Harleys. Maybe they are now, but they're not CVOs. Maybe they are new, sorry, but they're not CVOs either. Yeah, but he's like, the novelty of the newest thing left me a long time ago. My truck is almost 30 years old. Lovely. And one of my cars is over 50 years old. But my bikes are newer long. I remember, who was it? Billy Joel. I think he's on one of these motorcycle programs years ago, and he's basically talking about his bikes. I don't know what the latest is with Billy Joel in terms of whether he started to have as a little sideline, a hobby, a little motorcycle shop, a little motorcycle repair shop, and I think basically he'd got somebody else who's doing all the work for him. But essentially what he was saying is that he wants to have old-looking bikes that run like new, that have got modern technology. And there's a lot to be said for that. But older stuff. Maybe it's just an old generational thing, but younger people possibly are just don't care about the things that we care about. Maybe they will when they're older, but they just don't care about it. But you just wonder, in the generations to come, will the younger people now, as they get older, will they have any of the life skills to be able to do anything mechanical, electrical? Will they be able to do anything that will help them keep these things on the road? I mean, yeah, you would imagine they would have to. You would imagine that every generation is always probably worried about the next generation coming through. These lot, they're clueless, but somehow we tend to figure it out, don't we? William, I bought a 2022 Fat Boy for the simplicity. I upgraded to 131. Oh, straight away, nice. But it's not the complexity of my Ducati BMWs. Yeah, absolutely right. 131, eh? Nice. Nice chat, folks. Got to drop and get back to meetings. Well, thank you for joining, William. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your support as well. I'm really appreciated. Have a great day wherever you are and whatever you're doing. But as I say, look, this is it's something that I've noticed. It's something that I've picked up on more and more. I've picked up more and more. Oh, super chat, Bees of the Bike. Thank you very much. Good channel, supporting the cause. That's really much appreciated. Thank you. And you're always welcome here. Always welcome here, and always have your opinion. So love it. Love that. But it's something I've noticed more and more, and this is not Harley Davidson bashing opportunity. This is not an Indian bashing, Ducati bashing. This is more an observation of where we're at in terms of motorcycling future, the kind of people that we all are now, and how motorcycle companies are responding to that. Yeah. And the only way, it will ever change is mutiny. No. But there is something to be said for it. There is something to be said where the only way that these prices will ever come down, where companies will really start to take note, is where people just say, en masse, can't be the likes of me, can't be the likes of you, can't be the likes of a few other people around the bazaars. You've got to have it en masse, where people say, no more, I will not do this anymore, or we will not pay for this. Where loyal customers of a particular expensive brand, one that's got them, they say no more. We're going to go to this brand, this cheaper motorcycle, or you know what, we're just going to stick with what we've got. And that's what I've been hearing for the last 6 months. So much more than I have done in previous years. So if the numbers of people saying no, and dealerships are finding it hard to shift their inventory, but that's unsurprising. Let's be candid about this. That's unsurprising during the winter months anyway. You would expect there's going to be a bit of a rush now as spring is starting. Then who are these new people buying the bikes? Who are the new people that are going to be buying them in numbers? I just don't know. I just don't know who that is. The 1%ers? What? That's the thing about people, 1%ers. They don't tend to buy. They tend to buy big ticket items, but especially very big ticket items. And they tend to be. I was reading a report the other day. They're trying to profile 1%ers, and they tend to be people who have wealth and they live a conservative life to preserve that wealth as well. So I suppose they're more conservative in their thinking. Then they don't tend to be, according to this. I wish I had it so I could show you what it was. They tend to be less, more risk averse, more thinking, considering options, where they can have a much higher quality and a much more affluent lifestyle, but less risk taking. But they would rather see other people take the risks. So, in other words, what they would tend to do is have a yacht, and they would go on their yacht to, like a Monaco MotoGP to watch it. They'll fly in their private jet to go and watch, some high intensity sport somewhere else. They would spend, hundreds of thousands on, their own private zoo, let's say. But they're never going to get into the cage with a lion. They'll employ a lion tamer to do that, if you know what I mean. It's that kind of thing. They will spend the money, but they're not going to get too close to it. Some will, of course. There'll always going to be some adrenaline junkies out there who are also really rich, but most won't. So the numbers that will get into motorcycling certainly will be a reduced numbers. Richard gets, gosh darn it, Las Vegas checking in. Nevada. Thank you, Richard, for joining in. Late again, don't worry. You can always look at it back a little bit later on. P.S. Everyone needs to hit the thumbs up. Thanks very much. Thank you. Please do that. Morris, the new people are those terrified of the ULEZ. Well, the ULEZ is the London control zone with the emissions zone. Basically, you can't drive your motorcycles and cars in there, and they're expanding it ever more. Motorcycles you can, but up to a certain age. You can't, or they charge you, I should say. You definitely get more bang for your buck with a metric bike, hands down, but the Harleys always feels more solid and rugged. Yeah, look, this is not I suppose I would argue this with Harley Davidson. They feel chunky, they feel heavy, they feel bigger and better. But are they worth the money that you're paying for? Now, granted, a lot of the Harley Davidsons are in that middle range, where you can see, and I've said this before, I've got a Softail, right, a Sport Glide, but I see less value now in the Softails as motorcycles, less value in them because of the amount of money that they're being charged, 15, 16, well, 16, 17, 18,000, 19, 20,000 pounds, dollars, shekels. But I see a lot more in the standard, the stock road glide, street glide. A lot more value in those than I see in the, even up to the road glide, street glide special, road king special. I see value there. You might have to stretch for it, but I see value. But I don't see value so much in the Softails, and I certainly don't see value in the STs, and I certainly don't see value in the road glide or the street glide STs, and certainly not in the CVOs. But there we go. We are pretty blessed in Norway. We have a lot, and I mean a lot of older Harleys here. Yeah. There's quite a big, Norway is quite a big motorcycling world, isn't it? I mean, you're pretty much spring to early autumn, maybe late spring. So your riding months are generally less. Would that be fair to say? Last year was at the 40th anniversary of my old club, and there was Harleys dating back to the 1930s and all the way up until today. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, really nice. Love that. There were 25-year-old guys with 1975 Super Glides, 1200 shovelhead, alongside 22 CVO glides, and everybody was having a great time. Look, and that is the perfect thing where people who are into their motorcycles, regardless of what it is, regardless of what age it is, they're mixing, they're blending, they're having fun, right? Because you're all there for the common reason. You love bikes, you love Harleys, you whatever, right? You love it. But what I'm saying is that there are people, we know, we've seen them, that they are not necessarily, bike fans. But you could say the same in the car world, right? I've seen it in the car world as well. Not necessarily car fans. They have a car, they have this, but they're not saying car fans, but they'll, it's something that they have or they do, You might get people who are, let's say, really high earners, 1%ers, who collect vehicles. There's nothing wrong with that as well. Fine. I would love a stable of vehicles, and I would love a stable of motorcycles. But they might have 2 or 3, a Ducati, a Harley Davidson, or whatever. They might have they might have a range of older bikes, but they don't ride them that often, or maybe they do. Maybe they go for a little ride around every now and again, and great. They have their passion, they love it, that's great. There's no problem with that at all. But again, for the most part, those people are very, very few. And those people would be buying standard priced motorcycles that they liked, or the really expensive ones that nobody can afford, right? But now they're buying, the mainstream purchaser is moving towards that end. There we go. Bees are the biker. I ride 365 days a year. Florida kicks. I can say it now. It's after 9 o'clock. Kicks ass. Or as you guys would say, kicks ass. That's right. Beautiful. I love the seasons, I got to say. I also ride 365 days a year, but about 6 months a year, it's absolutely freezing where I am, so I don't really enjoy it, I've got to say. But I do love it. But I'd much rather ride where you are, Beezer. 365 days in the sun or anywhere. It's nice and sunny. And it doesn't have, but I don't really like really hot weather. If it's 23, 24 degrees, if it's mild, I like that. Just like the other day, got up, walked out my front door. It was in the morning, it was about 10 degrees, something like that. Beautiful morning, nice and sunny. Beautiful, just step outside, just with my little cardigan on here, and I was just like, this is lovely. Get on the bike, nice little ride around, thanks very much. Beautiful. Still cool enough to ride around, and I tell you what I do hate about riding in the winter is here in the UK is having to put on all the extra layers and all the extra protective, waterproof clothing, the heated gloves, the heated, and it's just like, it's great, but it's a right faff. Don't let anybody ever tell you that putting on all these extra layers and the heated clothing, the heated gloves is easy, because it isn't. It's a pain. It's a pain in the backside. It is absolutely a pain in the back. I don't know why people do it. I do it. I've been doing it for years. I don't know why. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It keeps you warm. But the amount of time, especially for a short journey, you think, by the time I've put all this on, I've put my boots on and my trousers on, I've clipped everything in, I've plugged everything in, and then especially, I tell you when it's worse, it's when you're riding in the dark, when it's at night, and it's crappy weather as well, it's raining and it's really cold or whatever, the middle of winter. It takes you about half an hour just to get yourself ready, and you're only doing a 20-minute journey or 25-minute journey, half an hour journey, and then it takes you another 10-20 minutes just to get out the gear, and it takes you another half an hour to not even warm up. You're still cold regardless. Get you a gold ring. It's heated. Well, I think what I always needed is a bike with a bigger windshield for a start, and heated seats would be nice. Heated everything, heated grips, all that sort of stuff. I got heated gloves, but that's it. It's the creature comforts that I need. The creature comforts now. And I suppose also I moved into more of a cruiser bike, and I always said, I said to my good lady the other day, I said, she who must be obeyed. I said, as we I don't know where we were, but we were somewhere, and she saw this bike, and she said, oh, that's nice. Yeah. And she said, that's the kind of bike that I will sit on the back of. And I went, oh yeah. Oh yeah. See, you've always got to have that little, always, do you remember what I said the other day? Always keep your ears open. That's a little in. That's an in for you to say, hold on a minute, I might be able to buy a new bike here. Hold on a minute, I might be able to buy a new bike here. I've got the all clear. And I said, well, funny enough, I was thinking about maybe selling mine and getting something like that. She goes, oh, man, yeah, really, yeah. Yeah, I said, would you come back on the bike? And she said, oh, maybe, yeah. I can see it. It's nice. I said, it's really comfortable at the back seat. It's really comfortable, It's really nice. It's got padded seat, padded seat. I forgot what it was now. I think it's either a BMW or I think it was a BMW. It was something like that. It could have been the K1600. I can't remember what it was. But she goes, oh, yeah, I really like that. I really like that. She didn't really, she said, I don't like the bike. She don't like the look of the bike. She's not really into bikes anyway, right? Fair enough. In all fairness, she does not really into bikes. She said, I don't really like the bike, but I like the seat. This is one of my big pearls of wisdom, my bits of advice for anybody out there. Anybody, let me just turn that down. Anybody who has a partner who's not really into motorcycling, but they might occasionally want to go onto the back of your bike, right? Whatever you do, always make sure that the seat that they are sitting on is comfortable, really comfortable. Have a nice, comfortable seat. Protect the ladies' derriere. Let's put it that way. Have it nice and comfortable because you want them to enjoy it. And you want it to enjoy it so they don't tell you off and nag you later on. So anyway, so I just saw this the other day and I thought, no, I've got a little in here. Maybe there's some light where I might be able to, get another bike. And I was saying, maybe later this year or maybe next year I might go. But but I've been thinking about it for a longer time of getting a tourist type of motorcycle, not because I do a lot of touring, I've got to say, and not because our roads are conducive to touring rides. It's more because of that kind of comfort level and that kind of, out of the elements a little bit. But then I'll think I could never get rid of my bike. I can't get rid of my bike. There's no way. And then I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe if I was richer, maybe I was like a 1%er, I'd have a stable of bikes and I'd keep my Sport Glide and I'd keep my project bike and I'd go and buy a brand new BMW or a Transcontinental or a 1250 RT or even a 1600 or even a Harley Davidson, even Indian Pursuit Challenger, a Challenger Pursuit, whatever. You think, oh, yeah, maybe I could. So I say one thing, I say I do. Yeah, I am a complete hypocrite. I know what you're thinking, because I'm a complete hypocrite. I'll moan about the prices of these things. I'll moan about them, but then I think if I had the money, yeah, I'd go and buy it. I'd go and buy it. So I can't. I'm not blaming anybody for buying it. I'm not blaming anybody for going and spending it. But I think, you know, would I be happy spending £40,000? I don't think I could ever justify 50,000, but for 30, let's say 30,000. I mean, £30,000 for a motorcycle. Dollars. That sounds insane to me. 20,000 sounds insane. 15,000 sounds insane to me. But I kind of, as years gone by, I think, 15, yeah, 20. Now you've heard me tonight. 25,000. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, yeah, I can see the value there. I'm fooling myself. I'm kidding myself here. But then you say 30,000. I think, well, if I had the money, I probably would spend it. Because if you got the money, you tend to spend money on the things that you're passionate about, right? The things that you like. And I'll tell you this for a fact. I've always said this to my lad, and I've told this to my other half, and I've told this to anybody until they're blue in the face. Anybody who wants to listen, and thankfully you're here tonight, so you're going to listen to me rant and rave about this. But I've always said this. One thing for absolute certain is this: if I won millions and millions and millions of pounds, dollars, shekels, if I was paid 200, 300,000 pounds, dollars a year, whatever, I would never buy an expensive car. Never. You know, a flash car, like a sports car or anything like that. Never. One, it's just that I don't particularly like cars. I've never have. I've never really, you know, thought to myself, wow, a BMW. Now, people, you're either a car person or a bike person. I'm definitely not a car person, but I'm a truck person, or, you know, pickup truck, or a utility vehicle type truck, 4x4s, that kind of thing, or vans, you know, that kind of thing. You know, those kind of things, small trucks, but not cars. Motorcycles, definitely. Trucks, yeah, definitely like that. So, you know, I could say, well, yeah, would I spend? It depends what the price of these things are, right? But again, I would be more inclined to spend more money on a car, so on a truck, than I would on a motorcycle. That's for sure. Because I just got to think, well, actually, from a practicality point of view, I could get more value from a day-to-day working thing from that. But then again, if you've just earned 10 million, or you just won 10, 20, 30 million, I don't think you're going to be worrying about work anymore. But do you know what I mean? So that's still where my mindset is, you know. Whereas, but I would still say, okay, do you know, as a little toy, as a treat, oh, look, it's my birthday. I'm going to buy myself a nice little motorcycle. So I'm going to go and buy I'm going to go and buy a Goldwing. There we go. I'm going to go and buy a Honda Goldwing. That's what I'm going to go and buy. Yeah, something like that. Have your woman talk to me. I'll help you convince her. Tell it it's a support motorcycle. Yeah, that's right. She needs to support me in my ways. You know, and I think that's the bike that I had before, which was the Triumph Explorer, the big adventure bike. Well, again, she didn't like the bike, the look of it, but she liked this sitting on the back of it, because I had the box on the back of it as well. And whilst the seat wasn't that comfortable, she liked the fact that it was a big box, you know, something behind that she could lean back on. Sorry, I moved away from the microphone there. But she can lean back from. You know, so the big touring motorcycles, like, got the tour pack on them as well. I would never use that. But I could see from her point of view, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, do you fancy getting on the back of that? Thanks very much, you know. But there we go. I love my ride for that. She likes sitting on the back, being a pin. Yeah. I've always said, I've always said this. If you've got your your wife, your girlfriend, your partner, or just a friend, whatever. The most important thing for you as the biker, as the rider, is to ensure that they have a good time, or try your hardest so that they have a good time, and that they're comfortable, and that they're, safe, of course, And especially as you get older and older, people just aren't necessarily excited, or they're not impressed by thrills. They're just impressed by having a nice time, right? And let's face it, as you get older, comfort becomes more relevant than maybe when you were younger, So that's why, there we go. Anyway, listen, guys, I think I've harped on enough. Listen, what do you think about this whole thing? Do you think that it's a good thing or a bad thing that the dynamic of motorcycle ownership has changed over the last 15, 20, 25 years? Yes, you could say that as we get older, we, for the most part, we get richer. We tend to earn more. We tend to be more stable in our life. We tend to throw our money around less. We tend to spend more on things that need to be spent on, prioritize. But then we get to a point where we don't need to spend on that money anymore. So we buy ourselves toys, we upgrade our toys to bigger and more expensive ones. We're all part of that. We're all part of this group to getting, older people have more money so we can afford it. That's why young girls want their older boyfriends, right? They want their sugar daddies because they don't want to go out with a dropout of their own age. They want to go with somebody who's got the money, who's independently wealthy. So let's face it, they never have to do a day's work in their life, and everybody's going to be paying for them. And this is what us older people, well, if you're sad, okay, I'm sure you'll do that, but there we go. But we're all part of this equation. But I think there's a definite trend for this drawdown of people with even more money coming in and, not buying up the stock, but buying more and more, getting more and more into it. PKT, I love my ride for that. Oh yeah, sorry, I've already read that. But I could never afford my Rokan if it wasn't for the fact that I sold an apartment. Oh, there we go. There we go. Beats the biker. I met a guy named Million Mile Phil out of Ohio. He had over 600,000 miles on his gold ring. Blimey. There's a couple of videos of him on YouTube. 600,000 miles. Blimey. I've heard of really high mileage bikes. The thing is, people would talk about like Harley Davidsons and stuff like that. They're unreliable, whatever. This is older ones, right? They're unreliable. You won't get very miles in them. But there's numerous people out there. I wouldn't say it's a common thing, but it's a common-ish thing to have, really high mileage Harley Davidsons. In fact, one of the things that I always, when I talked about having, when I was younger, not so long ago, but younger than I am now, I decided to start buying much bigger bikes than I even needed. And most of the things was especially if I'm going on longer journeys, because I'm never overstressing that engine is going to last long. And I still believe that. If you're over revving a smaller engine, it's going to last a lot less than if you're buying a touring bike, and that's why Harley Davidson's, low RPM, big touring bike, you're just cruising around all the time. You're never stressing the engine out unless you start messing with that engine, unless you start upstaging and trying to eke out more performance than it really was ever designed to give, right? But what I'm saying is, if you just keep it relatively standard stock, if you're just riding in a gentle-ish kind of fashion, then all of a sudden, guess what? That bike's should last for many, many hours. Many, many miles. Many, many miles. Beast of the bike, I love this. I'm an artificial sweetener, daddy. Oh dear, yeah, beautiful. Right, listen, guys, it's all I can say. It's been lovely hanging out with you guys. Oh, hold on, wrong one. It's been lovely hanging out with you guys, and food for thought. I think food for thought. Right. So this weekend, basically, as I said, I'm doing this charity live show on Saturday morning. That's 8 till 10. Not for me, not for this channel. I'm doing it for somebody else, another channel. And I'm going to be talking about all sorts of things there, mostly sporting things. And I'll be watching the boxing on Saturday night, or wherever you're in the United States. That'll be Saturday afternoon, I suppose. And so I'll be interested to see that. I think I'll be watching the undercard as well. And then Sunday off to watch football. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and do a bit of work on the bike. I'm going to try and attack the points tomorrow on that bike. I've been thinking about the last 2 days. Why aren't I getting a spark? I've got a feeling, because I've painted the frame, I've got a feeling I'm getting a really bad connection of the grounding of the coils on the frame. I've got a feeling that could be it. Because, this is a common thing. You got paint it, but you got bad grounding, so you need to scrape away the paint. So that's probably going to be one of my first little tasks. Scrape away a bit of the paint, sand it down, get to sort of bearish metal. Or what I might do is just get a wire, a cable wire, and just feed it to a grounding point, like an earthing point. I think it'd be easier just to, ground it off and away you go. So I'll see what I can do there. And see if I can get it to spark. If I can get it sparking, then I know I'm halfway there. And if I can get it just to squirt a bit of fuel in there, squirt a bit of easy start, I think if it starts up, then I can carry on with the build, I think. But as I say, I was hoping that I could get it done for this Easter. Unfortunately, there's going to be a couple of Easter egg runs this coming week. I'm going to miss those because I'm working. But duty calls and all that. I'm not working Easter Sunday, but I've also been asked to go on another show as well as a guest. Oh yeah. I'm in demand, guys. In demand, yeah. So I'll let you know if that comes off. I'm not sure what's happening with that as yet. So it's going to be an interesting week or so. But possibly the next time you see me on a live show or on a video, some of this will have changed around here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I know the far end where the that sign is, that's all coming down. All that stuff is going to change on the back wall, and then essentially what I'm going to do is put a screen up there, big screen, with a rolling image as well. Or rolling messages, I should say. I don't know how it's going to work out, because I don't know how if the lights are going to shine off it or anything like that. So I'm hoping they won't, and you'll be able to see it clearly. And then here, maybe I've got a couple of things coming, but I might just change all this anyway. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Look, by the way, look at that. Rossi, look at that. Beautiful. This is a picture from the magazine that I used to have. I used to feature regular artists from the motorcycle world. And this is a guy called Steve Wyman here from the UK. And this is one of his prints, Rossi. Amazing artist. Absolutely amazing artist. But obviously, I'm taking it down already. Right. Anyway, that's it. I think that's it now. Morris, don't forget the fire extinguisher. No joke. Well, that's true. Especially how calamitous I can be. I could easily cause a fire. That's for sure. Right. One of the other things as well. How can I put this? Behind the camera, as it were, I've got a screen here. I've got a spare laptop here. The reason why I'm having this spare laptop, because that's going to be a separate feed for that screen over there. I've got a screen here. So basically, that's the big screen is going. There's 2 extra screens. So if you can imagine what I'll be looking at, it'd be like mission control. 1 screen there, 1 screen there, and 1 screen there. So it'd be 3 screens, right? It's going to be like this, right? But the problem is with screens and lights and cameras and all this sort of stuff. Bees of the Biker, hey, have a good day, thank you. There's plugs everywhere. There's plugs and cables and everywhere. So cable management is going to be a big thing for me, right? So I'm going to have to show you on the next show, if I can do it. I might just watch out for my shorts, because I might just show you. But it's a tower like this of 12, or is it 14? It could be 12 plug sockets, right? But it's quite ingenious. And the top has just got a single on-off switch. So you power everything off. Because what I was sending to, I've got all these extension leads, and I have to keep on pulling out the plugs, which is a pain in the ass. What I want is just one master switch, right? But it's got lots of USBs as well. So my tech, hopefully, would be a lot less cables, or a lot tidier cables, more, better managed visuals, let's say, that I can just put everything up there. So when I'm talking to you, I can be looking at the screens as opposed to constantly looking down here, which I've noticed I do as well. So, so the things that I pick up on, Right, anyway, listen, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening to rant. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. William and Beaton, much appreciated. Just thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Morris, always a pleasure. Thank you for all those. And everybody, PK Taylor, thank you so much. Thank you for joining all the way from Norway. And Skull. I will say, Skull for fun. I should say that, but you didn't hear me say that. I will slap myself on the hand. I do apologise. I do apologise, but I used to live with Norwegian guys many, many years ago, and Swedish guys as well. So I picked up some Norwegian when I was back in the day. Vil du gå ut ta en øl med meg? Is that right? Will you go out for a beer with me? That was me trying to chat up girls in Norwegian. There we go. Those are the days. Oh yeah, still got it. He still got it. All the Norwegian people are thinking, oh God, who is this bloke? What is he going on about? But there we go. Listen, it's been emotional. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you again, hopefully, well, you never know, maybe Monday afternoon, Monday evening. I'll see how far I get with the reconstruction of all this, and I'll come back. What I may do is just make a series of videos this week, different points, and come up with it. Right, onwards and upwards. It's been emotional. I'll catch you on the next live show video, short, coming very soon. Ta-da.